Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today with a Bethesda focused discussion video. Today we're talking about the possibility of Bethesda having an E3 2019 showcase, since historically this is when Bethesda announces their E3 showcase. In 2016 on February 1st it was confirmed Bethesda would be having a E3 showcase. In 2017 it was confirmed on February 17th, and in 2018 we were told on March 1st that we'd have a Bethesda E3 showcase. So around this time of year is when the chatter picks up for Bethesda's E3 and we start speculating and wondering what is going to come about. Naturally, the stage is wide open for Bethesda amongst many other companies to have the eyes on them, because Sony, one of the biggest powerhouses at E3, has pulled out. So Bethesda can really capitalize on this alongside other companies, or they can bring more attention to a lackluster conference. Let's run down the list of developers underneath the Bethesda family and talk about what they are up to and what they could possibly bring to the table at an E3 2019 showcase. And at the end, I will be giving my thoughts on whether or not they actually will have a showcase. Starting off with the elephant in the room, Fallout 76. I really want to see what they're going to do with this one at E3. Are they going to address the flaws at launch, or are they going to approach it similar to how they did in 2018, where they sort of joked and laughed off a lot of the legitimate issues people had with their company that could be backed up with facts?
I think it's to see where we're putting Skyrim next.
I wonder if Fallout 76 will even talk about its launch, or more so talk about the future. Are they going to, as my friend Dreamcast guy suggested, burn it with fire and kind of pull a Final Fantasy XIV on it, where they bring it into a second life, fully rebuilding the title? Or will a significant content drop be ready by this point in time for Bethesda? Because we do know the survival mode for Fallout 76 is coming out in beta around sometime in March. Meaning that would give us about 3 months until Bethesda could drop something else in our laps, and I think by that point it'd be fair to expect something meaty from Bethesda. It was confirmed last E3 that Starfield was playable in certain sections, so I imagine a year later at the E3 2019 showcase, it'd be safe to assume that Bethesda could bring out a gameplay trailer or something with more details for Starfield. I imagine this game is a lot further along than most expect, and I wouldn't be surprised to see this be a early 2020 game for Bethesda Game Studios. While I know that Fallout 76 was not that great of a launch and people are not in a rush to see more from them yet and want them to take their time with Starfield, I completely agree, but Bethesda Game Studios is still bigger than they've ever been before, and I feel like games are going to come out from them at a much more rapid pace. Now, I think that they should hold back on Starfield a little bit because people are still very upset about Fallout 76, and the reason I bring that up is because let's say that Starfield isn't really what people are looking for at that point in time, then they can really just drop out on Bethesda Game Studios as a whole, which is one of Bethesda's powerhouse developers who brings in the most sales and money. So if I'm Bethesda, I wait till this game is well and ready to show. Don't force it out every single year because you announced it last year. I think Bethesda sort of did that alongside Elder Scrolls 6 to pad the announcement of Fallout 76 so people didn't think they were fully going into the online space. But speaking of Elder Scrolls 6, I am doubtful we see anything about that. Once again, I think that was just a safety net for Bethesda as they announced an online game and let people know what they were doing for the future, but I would not expect every single E3 from this point up until the actual release of the game that we are going to hear about it, because that's years and years and years away. I imagine we'll just hear more info about it in the interviews after the Bethesda E3 showcase. Lastly, from the BGS table is going to be Elder Scrolls Blades. That got delayed from the fall of last year into this year's spring. So I imagine by the time the possible E3 2019 showcase happens, we will have Elder Scrolls Blades on our phones. I feel like Bethesda's going to surprise drop this. Obviously, it's going to be a free game, and they're not going to do much press with it because it's going to have maybe a Apex Legends effect, not obviously of the same popularity, but more so when I say that, I mean that more people will be willing to just hop in because, oh, it's free, and hey, this is the new wave, let's give it a shot. Now let's move on over to the Wolfenstein games, because there is Wolfenstein Youngblood and there's still the talk of a Wolfenstein 3. When Youngblood was confirmed, people were afraid that this was sort of where Wolfenstein was going, as little spin-offs, but they did say that they're going to be doing a Wolfenstein 3. So I wonder if we will get a release date for Wolfenstein Youngblood and then a teaser for Wolfenstein 3, because at the beginning of one of the prior E3 conferences, we actually saw a Wolfenstein New Colossus teaser, and then we learned more later on. Personally, I'm excited for Youngblood because it's going to be a fully co-op experience, something that the industry severely lacks nowadays. So that's definitely something I look forward to, but also Wolfenstein in general I think is fantastic. I think it's some of the most satisfying gunplay in first-person shooters, so more of that I'm all about. Next is Arkane Studios, and let's talk about Prey. We had the Moon Crash expansion, which was fire, both in a good way and a bad way, right? Because one was actual fire, like, ah, this is awesome, and then the other was a dumpster fire. So we have Moon Crash, which is the single player expansion that is AAA procedural generation done right. That's coming from someone who does not like procedural generation, but I thought this expansion was utterly fantastic from a story perspective, from a gameplay perspective. It's highly replayable. It's exactly what I love about Arkane Studios. Fantastic level design, fun gameplay, all replayable. It really brought a new element to Prey that made me appreciate the game more than the base game actually did. However, there was another part of the expansion, and that was Typhon Hunter. Now, Typhon Hunter didn't do as well and didn't make as much noise as Moon Crash. In fact, it only made negative noise because the game mode was severely limited, there weren't too many maps, it was very bare bones, there wasn't much of a progression system. It was quite disappointing actually for what a A+ effort the original Moon Crash single player expansion was. And for those looking for more Dishonored, it was confirmed earlier that that game is in rest mode, so I wouldn't expect to see anything new from the Dishonored universe come E3 2019, as much as that pains me to say, because I adore Dishonored 1, I love Dishonored 2, I enjoyed the hell out of Death of the Outsider. I am always game for some more Dishonored. Sadly, that IP seems to be in rest mode. I get why. It hasn't performed as well financially. Bethesda would be losing money on it. They're probably going to put Arkane's talents elsewhere, and I'm sure that game will catch a lot of interest because they are incredibly talented at this studio. Probably my favorite developer underneath the Bethesda family at this point in time. Next, we move on to id. id, alongside Avalanche Studio, is working on Rage 2, which is releasing on March 14th, 2019. So this game will also be out before Bethesda's supposed E3 2019 showcase. In my opinion, all this means we can really see from Rage 2 is the possibility of DLC, future content, updates on how the game's doing. There's also, more importantly, Doom Eternal, which we just have a 2019 release window for, and I imagine this will be the headliner for Bethesda's possible E3 2019 showcase, because this is going to be the fall title for them. This is going to be the holiday title that's designed to push a lot of units for them and get a majority of the marketing focus. Doom really shocked the industry back in 2016. I think because it's now on a lot of people's radars, more folks are going to check out Doom Eternal, and it's really going to wow a ton of people, and there's going to be a lot of newcomers, especially in the holiday period with a lot of marketing. I think that game's actually going to do really well. Next is Elder Scrolls Online. We can always count on ESO to have some type of presence at E3. Elsewhere, the next expansion for Elder Scrolls Online is dropping June 2019. So once again, this is another thing that's landing right around E3, but this is normal for Elder Scrolls Online. This is not something out of the ordinary. Every single June, there is some type of big expansion dropping for this game, and it always really reinvigorates the player base. I personally still suggest to this day, you give Elder Scrolls Online a try. I was looking at a sale somewhere, I think it was Steam, and I saw that there is Elder Scrolls Online Summer Set for $11, complete steal. Next, we head on over to Tango Gameworks, who last worked on The Evil Within 2, had some free updates for the game, and went on radio silence. Personally, I don't have much to add to that conversation. They are arguably, and I don't say this in a mean way, but my least favorite developer of the entire family. I don't look forward to their games as much. I thought the first Evil Within was actually solid, but the second one felt more like an action game. It kind of reminded me of how the Resident Evil franchise went a bit. So I personally don't expect to see too much from the Evil Within in general. I think that team entirely needs to go back to the drawing board because their main franchise under Bethesda doesn't have a sense of direction, and on top of that, the Evil Within 2 didn't perform all that well. Lastly is Quake Champions. I imagine they will have some form of new content. They did announce some at QuakeCon, and they always have some type of trailer at E3. But if you noticed here, a lot of what I suggested is potential DLC, updates aside from a Starfield gameplay trailer and Doom Eternal release date, with probably that getting the primary focus. Now, that doesn't remove the possibility that Bethesda could have some surprise studios underneath their belt that they haven't announced are joining the company. That's been a big part of Bethesda. They announced that at QuakeCon 2018, so who knows, maybe there's more expansions that they'll be revealing at 2019. Maybe there's a new IP in the works from another company that they acquired but haven't told everyone about. There's always that possibility, but what I'm getting here is really shades of 2017. If you remember, 2017 for E3 with Bethesda was not good at all.
Working on is fucking bananas, so now you know what I mean by fucking.
What the fuck?
Bethesda with the casual F-bomb.
Fucking, yeah, T-Hans. It's really relatable to my generation.
It was roughly a 40-minute conference that was incredibly disappointing. It felt like it was very fast-paced, didn't show off anything too interesting, and at the end, really all we got was some Wolfenstein and some Evil Within 2. Evil Within 2 getting a very tiny reveal, Wolfenstein 2 getting a bulk of the focus. Really, all this conference seems to leave room for, on paper, based off what we know, deducing from all the studios underneath Bethesda, is that there will probably be a major game or two focused on, I'd imagine, Starfield gameplay trailer, and then Doom Eternal, and then possibly a big surprise, if any, and then some DLC for all of the games beneath who are not ready to have big full reveals yet. But other than that, that's all I could deduce for you guys. I personally don't think they're going to have a showcase this year, and if they do, I wouldn't hold your breath for anything super amazing. Now, I'd love to be wrong about that, but I don't know how much time, for example, Bethesda Game Studios could eat up talking about a 76 update and a gameplay trailer for Starfield. I doubt we see anything from ES6, and you get the point. I don't think there's enough to show this year to justify a showcase, but if they do have a showcase, I'll obviously be watching and covering it right up until the very moment. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on Bethesda's E3 2019 showcase. Do you think they'll have one? If so, what do you think will be there? What do you expect? Fire away in the comments down below, ladies and gentlemen. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, like me on Facebook. Those links are in the description down below, along with my Patreon. Do consider supporting that, as it fuels all the content I create here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.